kills Palestinian people in their own homeland. I think it is about the right to self-determination, but it's also, I think it's more than a two-state solution. Many Palestinian groups are calling for a one-state solution, and that's how it should be. In the United States, we need to stop sending any type of military aid to Israel. I think what's going on what's been happening in Palestine, you know, is an indication of 40 years of complete terror amongst another group of people aided by American tax dollars. You know, and I think younger people, particularly through hip-hop, it's been interesting that we can have cultural exchanges and actually have people in Palestine like the hip-hop group DAM that let us know what's happening every day right there on the ground, and that the issue for a lot of Palestinian people would be that they deserve their homeland back, and that the right of return is fundamental to them as a people.
Well, Governor Palin last night refused to attribute global warming as a major cause of human activity causing global warming. Let's listen to this.
Well, as the nation's only Arctic state and being the governor of that state, Alaska feels and sees impacts of climate change more so than any other state, and we know that it's real. I'm not one to attribute every activity of man to the changes in the climate. There is something to be said also for man's activities, but also for the cyclical temperature changes on our planet.
Well, I think it is man-made. I think it's clearly man-made. And look, this probably explains the biggest fundamental difference between John McCain and Barack Obama and Sarah Palin and Joe Biden, Governor Palin and Joe Biden. If you don't understand what the cause is, it's virtually impossible to come up with a solution. We know what the cause is. The cause is man-made. That's the cause. That's why the polar ice cap is melting.
Rosa Clemente, you have 30 seconds.
Well, I would just encourage people to understand one of the major principles of the Green Party, and I would also encourage young people to take up Van Jones's call for green jobs for oil, and the recent call by former Vice President Al Gore about civil disobedience, because that's what we need to stop the madness around the environment that these oil companies and this government keeps pushing down our throats.
Matt Gonzalez?
Well, I would just say that to hear both these candidates talk about clean coal, this is just totally a mythology that we need to repudiate among the progressive community. Also, you have to look at Barack Obama's voting for this Energy Policy Act in 2005. This is a ticket that, in effect, in 2005, was giving money for fossil fuel production, tax breaks and subsidies. Nader Gonzalez does not support that, and we've been arguing for a promotion of solar energy and other alternatives that I think, you know, we've got to move forward on.
Well, you know, there seems to be less disagreement between the two of you than there was between the two candidates last night. Matt Gonzalez, why are then you running against Rosa Clemente as well?
Well, I think Cynthia McKinney sought the Green Party nomination. Ralph Nader's never been a member of a political party and is running as an independent. I think in today's difficult times, having four candidates out there arguing about and trying to raise progressive issues is a positive thing. And I think really under this whole debate, to see Joe Biden be included in vice presidential debates when he never had even the poll numbers that Ralph Nader has when he was running in the Democratic primary is really an insult to other candidates that have lengthy careers doing good work for this country.
Certainly, Ralph Nader ran on the Green Party ticket in the last presidential race, but Rosa Clemente, your main difference with Matt Gonzalez and the independent candidacy of Nader Gonzalez?
I mean, I think one of my main differences, I feel that a lot of the issues coming from some of the other third parties are more reformist issues. And I feel we don't need reform anymore. We need to really look at a lot of these systems in this country and talk about fully dismantling them. And I think that's one of the reasons that Cynthia picked me. I think coming from my generation, coming from the South Bronx, still seeing my family there suffering in the poorest congressional district to this day, understanding the history of Puerto Rico and what the United States of America has done, particularly to my people in that country, my island, that we can't afford to be talking about reform. We can't afford to be talking about the lesser of two evils, although I don't see Matt Gonzalez or Ralph Nader as an evil. I'm talking about the
Rosa,
fact
I'm
that...
just wondering, though, could you just give one example where we're reformists and you're something else?
One example of reform? Where
you think where we're advocating reform and somehow you're advocating system change, because we've not supported this bailout.
Look, I applaud Ralph Nader for coming out finally against the prison-industrial complex, but part of that still keeps the prison-industrial complex alive. Part of that still says that there's people that should be subjected to prisons, and I have a very different view on that. I don't think we need prisons. I think we need the abolition of prisons. I think we have to fully understand that, particularly my generation, African-American and Latino young people, no one is speaking to that issue. No one is speaking to that issue, and I think the Green Party has been forced to speak about that issue because Cynthia specifically picked me. I come from that generation. I see what's going on. So that's what I talk about. I think it's more about truly radical progressive change.
I want to go to the last clip we're going to play from last night's debate and get your comment. The two VP nominees also discussing benefits for same-sex couples and the overall question of gay marriage.
Absolutely. Do I support granting same-sex benefits? Absolutely, positively. Look, in an Obama-Biden administration, there will be absolutely no distinction from a constitutional standpoint or a legal standpoint between a same-sex and a heterosexual couple.
Governor, would you support expanding that beyond Alaska to the rest of the nation?
Well, not if it goes closer and closer towards redefining the traditional definition of marriage between one man and one woman, and unfortunately, that's sometimes where those steps lead. I will tell Americans straight up that I don't support defining marriage as anything but between one man and one woman, and I think through nuances we could go round and round about what that actually means, but I'm being as straight up with Americans as I can in my non-support for anything but a traditional definition of marriage.
Let's try to avoid nuance, Senator.
Do
you support gay marriage?
No, Barack Obama nor I support redefining from a civil side what constitutes marriage. We do not support that. That is basically a decision to be able to be left to the faiths and people who practice their faith determination what you call it.
Matt Gonzalez, I know you have to leave, so I'm going to give you the first stab at this as you catch a plane. And also, correction, in 2004, yes, Ralph Nader was an independent candidate as well. He was 2000, the Green Party candidate. Your comment on same-sex marriage?
Well, obviously, Nader and I support marriage rights for all. I think it's insulting to hear these candidates want it both ways. They're essentially trying to appeal to both conservative voters who are opposed to gay marriage and somehow also appeal to progressive voters who want to see equality. I think Ralph Nader, when you step back and look at his history, he is somebody who is an enormously important voice against the growing corporate greed in this society and what concentrated capital does when it's left alone. And I think he's not somebody who has decided to fight against the two parties. He has his entire life been fighting against these parties. It's not a recent conversion on a host of issues. And I think he should have been in this debate. I think he has a legislative record that's stronger than the candidates that we saw in that debate. I mean, Joe Biden should have been asked about his support of credit card companies in Delaware, of the federal sentencing guidelines that he helped pass in the 1980s that, has disproportionately hurt people of color. These were things that were absent, and I think if Rosa and I had been in that debate, it would have been a better debate.
And Rosa Clemente, your perspective on gay marriage?
I mean, full 100% equal rights for everybody. I also take it a step further for it being about human rights. LGBT people are human beings, and they have a right, like anyone else, to get married, to get divorced, to not get married. But if I could just quickly just say, Yes, Cynthia did leave the Democratic Party after 12 years. But while she was in there, it was Cynthia McKinney that had a hearing on the issue of political prisoners, the first ever congressional hearing on that. It was Cynthia that pushed the envelope about what happened on 9/11. It was Cynthia that wrote the articles of impeachment. And I think that speaks highly to someone who will leave a party finally based on principles and values and then pick someone that truly represents what the majority of this country is going to look like. I think if me and Matt were on there and if Cynthia, Bob Barr, Baldwin, Ron Paul, and Ralph Nader were allowed to debate, the presidency on November 4th would look radically different and would represent the majority of American people.
Rosa Clemente, I want to thank you for being with us. Green Party vice presidential candidate on the ticket of the former Democratic Congress member from Georgia, Cynthia McKinney, who's the Green Party presidential nominee, and Matt Gonzalez, running on Ralph Nader's independent party ticket as the vice presidential candidate. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. When we come back from break, we go down to